All right, so now we're going to start digging into strategy. So we know we've got our 10 core areas that you need to focus on, and you want to get yourself to a level 8, 9, and 10 in all of those areas in order to hit your goals. So you've had a chance to reflect, you've had a chance to maybe have a cup of coffee and so on. So you come back in, so can we just start off in the sense of who's now fully committed to mastery? Okay? Who's like, yeah? One of you? Okay, that's fine. Alright. Only from my experiences, obviously the more committed you are to something, the more you're likely to see it through and achieve the result for yourself. So that's kind of why I keep pushing you and challenging you on it. But we know this is important. 10 key areas that make up the Sage Skill Portfolio Plan, 10 areas of development where you want to get your skill level 8, 9 or 10. Probably mentioned the average one way of doing that, a 12-month program. I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. But let's get into, we're diving into this area of the plan, and we're getting into the simple selection system. So I mentioned earlier that Aaron, when he started this journey and wanted to teach people, that he looked at both his journey, 100 other people who've gone through as clients, their journeys, and also 50 independent people who all were making 100,000 a year from their property. Out of that were 5 primary strategies that bar one of those people followed. And within property there are so many different strategies. And I'm going to give you an overview of the 5, so I'll touch on them. But then within that as well, we'll talk a little bit deeper on 3 of them. But again, this is an overview. In one day I can't possibly go through all of these things, but I can make you aware of what's possible. So I hope that makes sense. And then even within that, like options, for example, options, you could spend 3 or 4 days just on options. So to give you an idea of where you're going. But here's what's important. There are so many strategies. Can you do all of them? No, not successful. So the key is to pick one and marry it. No worries. And stick with it all the way to your goal. Once you've got to the goal, that's fine. If I go back to kind of karate, I didn't day one decide I was going to do karate, judo, mixed martial arts, aikido, krav maga. I wasn't going to do all of them. Because that whole idea of trying to ride more than one horse at the same time, you fall off. But if I committed to one thing and stuck with it, then I knew I could achieve a significant goal, which in my case was getting to 3rd dan. That's what I did. Same idea with property. Pick one. Who gets emails from Aaron's company, the Insight Group? Okay. Who gets emails from other property groups? Obviously, Insight's not the only one. So who gets them? Simon Zushi, he's based around the Midlands, isn't he? A friend of mine. Yeah, so you get from Simon. Anybody get anything from Rob at Progressive? You as well? You're not on Rob, so somebody on everybody's list. So you're getting emails from all of them. And what's really interesting, I know Simon and Rob, they both run kind of these monthly meetings, these property investor networks. And it might be you get an email saying, this month we got a speaker coming in talking about sandwich options. So you go, well, that sounds interesting. So you go off and you race across the country to Peterborough, where Rob's company is based, and you go and listen to somebody talking about sandwich options. And then you come home, so you've got the journey, you listen to it, it's all interesting, it was very entertaining, it was great, you made a few notes, you came home, and then a few days later you get another email, and Simon's put on an event, and they're doing an evening event, and they're talking about how to structure and deal with high net worth individuals and be a very successful property sourcer. So you go, well, that sounds interesting. So you jump in your car, you drive all the way across to wherever Simon is, maybe it's close to Solihull, and you go to attend a meeting, you listen, it's entertaining, it's a great speaker, made lots of notes, you come home, you add it to your other notes, maybe you've even gone digital, you take pictures of it and put it in Evernote, and you've got it secured for life. And then of course the next email comes in, and there's something else. It's like, oh, HMOs. Oh, that sounds good, I should go and listen about HMOs. So you housing occupancy, by the way. So you go jumping in your car, you go across the country to Edinburgh to attend a meeting in the evening from a speaker talking about HMOs. You go, that was entertaining, it was interesting, you collect your notes, you come home. Well, how much progress have you made towards your goal of financial freedom? None. Pick one strategy. Especially if you're male, then you do not multitask. So pick one and stick to it. And if you pick one, and you know what your strategy is, let's say for example family lets, and you decide, okay, that's it, and then an email comes in about HMOs, you go, well, that's fine, but that's not my strategy. But if one comes in about family, go, well, I'm going to go to that. So now you just saved yourself all that time. The purpose of all this ultimately is to give you back your time. Not so you can fill it with things which are not relevant. Okay? So pick one strategy. All right. Okay, so first of all, I want to help you decide what your strategy is going to be. So 2 decisions, 2 questions you need to answer. First of all, in the beginning, and this is for the next 6 months only, so it's not for life. In the beginning, do you want a job strategy or an investor strategy? Now let me give you the definition. If you're going to be investing more than 3 hours a week into your property portfolio, your development, this includes education time, then you have a job strategy. If you're going to invest less than 3 hours a week, then you've got an investor strategy. So you want to select an investor strategy. Does that make sense so far? 3 hours, yes. Then, so that's your first question. So actually, I have to start with that. Let's start one question at a time. We'll keep it simple. So write down what's your answer to that question. So if you started out from nothing, then obviously you might recognize, okay, I need to develop my skills first. 3 hours a week to develop my skills. So you're possibly starting with a job strategy in that respect.
You could move from one to the other, couldn't you?
You could move from one to the other, absolutely. And 6 months from now, when you've just got momentum and things are going, then the next question is, do you want a job or an investor strategy at that point? That makes sense. So it's, as I said, it's not for life, it's just for the next 6 months.
When you're self-employed as well, you've got flexibility.
You've got more flexibility with your time.
Well, actually, I allocate my week very strictly.
Yeah, me too.
And therefore, I start off obviously as an investor, and then I move, if it starts getting bigger and better, and it's turning into my independence, then clearly I'm not stupid, I'll start moving across there. You know? So,
all right, so everyone got an answer? You written something down? Anybody struggling? Everyone got an answer?
yeah.
Who's got a job strategy to start with? Okay. Who's got an investor strategy to start with? Okay. Like Aaron, when he started, because he started to develop obviously the knowledge of it, and he, who's now his business partner, a guy called Mark. So Aaron and Mark started. Mark had some capital, so he put up the capital to begin with. So Aaron and Mark kind of did a joint venture. And so Aaron was doing all the work. So he was finding the properties, doing the negotiation and so on, and doing all that work. And so in that first 6 months, actually probably closer to a year for them, until they got to the point where they had a very good portfolio. But by the time they got to that point, Aaron was like, actually, I don't enjoy doing all of this on a day-to-day basis. But as they progressed, Mark had got more interested in the property side of things and actually enjoyed it and wanted to do more of it day-to-day. So they ended up flipping roles. So when they got to that point, it became Aaron doing less of it and Mark doing more of it. And when I say more, still, obviously, it's only a certain number of hours a week that he puts into it. But just understand, you can start with something you can flip later. But how you decide will influence what strategy you choose today in terms of what you're going to marry. You've got to pick one, and that's the one you're going to stick with until you get to the result you want. Okay? All right. So let's get into this then. So we've got 5 strategies, primary strategies. We're going to touch on 3 of them. And the final one, that J, if you want to just draw this down, that J at the end, just put JV. So JV, a joint venture, isn't a property strategy in itself, but it's a way of leveraging every other strategy because it can accelerate what you're doing by giving you more capital to play with. Let's start with family-let. So it's family-let as a not buy-to-let. Buy-to-let I think can be confusing and vague, so it's family-let. So family-let is a 3 or 4 bed property. So it's not an apartment, it's not a 1 bed or a 2 bed. What do 1 or 2 bed type apartments tend to attract as tenants? Young professionals. And what do young professionals tend to do early in their life? Move around. So you end up with a situation where you've got a tenant for 6 months or so, and then they need to move. Like when I first came out of, when I finished my A-levels, one of my friends went off and joined Marks and Spencer's. So he joined their training program to become a manager of their stores. So he moved from Rochdale initially to Leeds to do the training. And so he was in Leeds for 6 months, and then they put him in a store in Manchester. So, you know, he moved out of home, his family home, his parents' home, went to Leeds, rented an apartment for 6 months, then left, went to Manchester, rented an apartment in Manchester for 6 months. And at the end of that 6 months, they moved him on again somewhere else to learn a new set of skills under a new manager. So again, he gave up his lease and moved on somewhere else. So what do we want as tenants?
Stability.
Someone who's going to stay. Like every time you change a tenant, it costs you on average £1,500 in terms of tenant find and letting fees and all the change around. So we don't want that expense. If you've got 10 properties a year, if you've got 10 properties, 10 times 1,500, that's £15,000 a year. Over a decade, that's £150,000 cost. You don't want that cost. You don't always know what you do what you want. So you got that. So you don't want that cost. So what we want are lifers. We want someone who's going to move in and stay. You've got someone who's a lifer. Let's say there's a minor need, or let's say a door handle breaks. What's the lifer going to do? Fix it. So it saves you the hassle of that as well. They'll do little odd jobs around the house quite easily, happily, because they're there for life. It's their home. They're treating it as their home. So they're the kind of people we want. Now, from an income point of view, we'll get deeper into the numbers and so on later, but depending on where you are, actually let me backtrack. From a purchase point of view, you're looking anywhere between 70 to 120,000 at the moment in terms of purchase. That's the kind of range for purchase price of these types of properties.
That seems quite low, depends on what area you're talking about.
Yeah.
But that's a guidance.
That's a guide for making this strategy work.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying.
Which brings up the question of what areas?
Why
Flip that for a second. Are you looking at areas and going, well, I want a property portfolio as long as it's in my neighbourhood? No, it's not, I want it near me. It's what's going to give me my goal. Does that make sense? Like Aaron, he's from Scarborough in Yorkshire. So if he's from Yorkshire and he wanted to go and buy some stocks on the stock market, would he only buy Morrison's shares because Morrison's are from Yorkshire? No, you buy the shares that's going to give you the return that you're looking for. Same with property. So don't be attached to, I live in Birmingham, I want to buy property in Birmingham. This strategy might not work.
I suppose that's the difference between job and investing.
For sure. And if you want to manage them all yourself, then it's a job. And you might want it more local. But remember, head, not heart. It's like, do the numbers stack up? If they don't, it's not a deal. And if we want this to work, we've got to choose the areas correctly. It's got to be the right area for the right strategy. And I would say, from a longer term point of view, like I said at the beginning, you might have a job strategy to begin with, but that might be mainly developing skills and so on. But you want to get to that point and design it from the beginning, where you're thinking, I want to be ultimately free. I want to buy back my time. So you might look at, and maybe there's an argument to say, okay, actually, if it isn't on my doorstep, I'm less likely to try and dabble. So you will need to do it correctly and have the right team in place to give you that freedom.
Just outsource management.
And outsource the management, absolutely, yeah. So there's an argument for doing that. That's where it works. And that's kind of an introduction to family. We'll run the numbers after lunch. I'll show you how it breaks down in terms of what you can expect in terms of positive cash flows. Like, it does want to be positive. We were doing an event yesterday, and this doesn't happen every single event, but it happens quite regularly. Somebody comes to me and says, I've got a property and it's just breaking even. That's not an investment. But it's costing money, it's not generating. Okay, so the question to ask then always is not what it costs, but what would be my return on investment. That's your first question. Because we talked about, like, you might pay an extra 3% in stamp duty, but if you're getting a property that's going to pay you another £10,000 a year for life, is it worth having? Yeah, of course it is. So what will be the return? So stop thinking cash, start thinking assets. One of the big things I've got from Errol is you continue to reinforce this idea of everything you create is an asset. In other words, you do the work now, and it pays you ongoingly. Yeah, passive income. Actually, on that point, obviously, nobody creates a passive income passively. And what's the first asset you invest in? Or what's the biggest asset you've got?
Yourself.
Your wife. I haven't met her. Biggest asset? Yourself, in here, between your ears. That's where you start. Like, I run 3 successful businesses. Now, didn't start out that way, but I developed the skills. They're now an asset. They're an asset I can transfer to my children as well. I mean, it's interesting as my children got older, like the kind of questions they ask me, because actually Harrison is just turned 12 in November, and I was taking him to school the other day, so I was driving him down. I don't drive him all the way to school anymore because he's 12. So I drive him so far and he meets his mates and they walk into school together, because obviously he's more grown up. So anyway, we're in the car, it's only a short journey to drop him off with his friends. And he says to me, Dad, what is it you do? Because his friends, of course, talk about the job their dads have. And I'm not making any judgment on that, you do what you got to do. But he doesn't have, it's like, because if they ask him what does your dad do, he's like, I don't know. And my kids have seen, like, one of the things I wanted to do when we decided to have children, and obviously we've got 3 now, so I'm very blessed. But one of the things I wanted to be in my children's life throughout. Does that make sense? So I wanted to take them to school. I wanted to pick them up from school. I wanted the time to do that. And as it happens, even in today's modern age, where we're all equal, and obviously there's still some challenges, but even in today's modern age, I was actually the rarity as a dad, which is just how it is at the moment, I guess. So I would go, and most of the children get picked up by their mums. I was one of the few who was actually, as a dad, picking my kids up, but I'm glad I did it. Because I know my kids are sort of now 10, 12, and 15. Tomorrow they'll be 21. They won't want to hang out with me. But I want to create experiences and memories now, so I want that freedom. So that's been part of my drive for making this happen and making it a reality. So start thinking acid. So I've developed the skills in business. Like I said before, you're going to learn a language, you'd go and get lessons. Statistically, if you look at just business generally, out of every business that starts, out of every 100 businesses that start, how many stay in business after the first few years? Small percentage, like 8 out of 10 gone. So statistically, the odds are against you, but yet people still believe they have this inherent optimism, I think, that somehow it's common sense. The biggest thing I see with business people is they think it's common sense, whereas actually the stats say it's uncommon sense. It's a skill set. Get the skills. Start thinking acid, develop yourself first. So this leads me nicely into talking about the Mentorship Academy. It's a 12-month program, so it's very different to some of the other things you might have seen. So it starts with a 3-day event with Aaron himself. He's still teaching at the moment. So 3 full days, total immersion. Immersion is a great way to build momentum right from the beginning. So you get fully immersed about 12 hours a day, so it's full on, but you start going deeper into the strategies, deeper into the 10 core areas. The whole goal is to, over that year, to get you to a point where you are at an 8, 9, 10 level in all 10 areas. That's the purpose of it. So we go through all the areas in a deep level. Then, of course, there's both the 3 days, and then it's not like do 3 days and off you go on your own. As I said, it's 12 months, so it's 3 days. Then there's also the ongoing training, so you still access the webinars with Aaron on a weekly basis. You can dive deep into any of the 10 areas at any time. It's all opened up to you online. It's also about creating the right team around you. Change the team, change the game. You want the right team. I've already had people asking me about different tax situations in the breaks. I always get questions around portfolios. I've had, for example, like one of my strengths is strategy. So one of the things I've done over the years is help people solve difficult portfolio problems. Like I've seen people buy property without running the numbers, and then they've got themselves in a situation where, like the worst example I ever saw, a guy came to me and he said, like, I've got this portfolio. He said, but it's not working. Now he had a really good job, so he had a high salary, but his portfolio was costing him £5,000 a month. And you know, he was putting his hand in his pocket and putting £5,000 a month just to keep his portfolio going. That's not an investment. And he was like, what do I do with it? So we sat down, I showed him how to restructure it so that it balanced his portfolio, so now it paid for itself, washed its face, and it's in positive cash flow. That's one of the things that I do. I can see how to solve problems. So part of that is having the right team around you. So once you join the mentorship program, you get access to Aaron's team. So that's mortgage, solicitors, property sources, valuers, financial advisors, accountants, the right people who understand property investing. Not just an average accountant or an average mortgage broker. People who understand it right. Like when, I said Aaron was a mortgage broker to begin with himself. And when he bought his first buy-to-let property, who did he use as his mortgage broker? Himself. But he actually didn't understand buy-to-let mortgages in detail, in depth, so he shouldn't have done that. He did the wrong thing. Then he wanted to refurbish it, so who did he get as the contractors, the builders? Somebody down the pub literally recommended. So he ended up getting the wrong person who took longer, charged him more, as he found out after the effect. So you want the right team around you. You can't go on your own. I mean, that's the big thing. I would say one of my biggest issues when I first started 15, 20 years ago was like, I think it's partly reinforced in school, this idea of your work, you do it on your own. It wasn't kind of a teamwork thing. So it took me a while to get over that, but you realize you cannot do it on your own. I can't be a tax advisor, I can't be a financial advisor. It'd take me more than a lifetime to develop all of that, but I can understand property. So put the right team around you, get access to Aaron's team. Then, would it be useful to know in advance which areas of the UK are going up in value? Yes or no? Yeah. Would it be useful to know in advance which areas of the UK are going down in value? Yes. And you want to be able to read the markets like that as a professional investor. So you'll understand how to do that. And then how to source property at a discount. So there's two aspects to this. One, you know how to do it for yourself, which means that if you then decide to use other property sources, you'll know if what they're bringing you is good or not. Like, is property sourcing a mixed bag? Of course it is. There are people that get into property sourcing because they know it's going to be easy money. So they don't really do any work. They bring you a deal, or supposed deal. They tell you it's below market value. Is it really? You need to be able to know that and check it for yourself. They haven't done any negotiation on it. And what I have seen, and this is the worst of the worst, I've seen one property sourcer source a deal, another property sourcer take it, add their fee on top, and try and pass it down. So all of a sudden, the fees have gone up, but now you've got a £7,000 finder's fee. And the property's not been taken off the market. It's not really below market value. It ain't a deal, it's not an investment. So even if you're not going to do it yourself, you want to know how it's done so you can read it yourself. So property sourcing. And then the final thing, big thing, become your own bank. As I said earlier, you will run out of money at some point. Everybody does. So you want to know how to raise capital on demand. So you'd like to know how to raise £100,000 on demand. It's key. And that's how you keep going, keep going, keep going. Because once you do it once, you just repeat, repeat, repeat. This is Mark. So when he first met Ari and money sat in the bank, obviously the bank are making use of it, he wasn't. And equity in his property. If you've got equity in your property, it's just sat there. You want it to work for you. Release it and get it out there working harder than you do. So equity in the property, not doing a thing. He worked in a factory as a printer, so he was working different shifts. And he kind of dabbled in holiday lets, but was very cautious, he said, by his own nature. Aaron told me to joint venture. One of the things you do on the 3-day especially is we really drill down into joint ventures and we get you practicing it as well so that you leave ready. So the benefit of mixing time with experience, try and bring my skills with us. He quit his job within 15 months. I'm guessing he didn't like his job. Since then, he's grown his portfolio to over £6 million of property that creates £6,000 a month cash flow for him, and as importantly, a further £6,000 a month for his JV partner. Who'd like an extra £6,000 a month? And then £300,000 of equity each year. So even just splitting that two ways, another £150,000 being added to your net worth each year, would that be useful? Yeah. So, and he admits, obviously being human, there were times he got fearful. Like a lot of people get to the 3 property scenario. He would have got there, he would have stopped, or he would have bought less, but of course being able to stay in touch. It's 12 months, you get to stay in touch with all of us. That support enabled him to carry on. That's why it works. So this was included, obviously those are the key areas. This is Kit, so he just got started really. So he came in last February, found it really useful, enjoyed all of it, learned more about property, and all about the strategies, and he's going to have to go about making his first purchase, so he highly recommends the program. There's a Facebook group as well for everybody who goes through the program, so you can obviously stay in touch with each other, and you'll find that's a useful place for doing joint ventures as well as sourcing property. Aaron, you surpassed yourself with the 3-day mentorship course, truly going to the next level. Speaking to so many people on the course, certainly a few of us will do JVs with each other. There are people that have capital that want to know how to do this for their own benefit, but don't necessarily want to do it. Does that make sense? So they want to know how it's done, but they've got capital and they're looking for a partner. So when I did this, I found people on there who wanted to partner with me. And then now sort of had to go from strength to strength, thank you. And then Pavlina, she was more focused on the confidence aspect of it. So she said, you know, she now feels way more confident in getting to build up her property portfolio. So she enjoyed the workshop, good opportunity to get hands-on experience in terms of meeting people, networking, what questions to ask people to get the right connections. So definitely recommends it because it's very structured, it's very comprehensive. And for her, she said the most valuable thing is she now knows she can do it. So that belief aspect of being able to know you can actually do it. Because our biggest fear is fear of the unknown. Once you understand it, that breaks that fear down, and you know the steps you've got to follow, then it's just about getting on and doing it. And with the right support, you will get on and do it. Christian, similar thing, absolutely recommend it. He was already a property investor, so he'd already got some experience. He got so far on the ladder, but he felt he needed a little bit more understanding, a little bit more education to go to the next level. And he said the most valuable thing for him was to make sure you got the right team around you. You're only as strong as your weakest link, but if you haven't got parts in place, then it tends to fall apart. So something to take on board, something to apply to his own journey. So we'll go back to formulate plan, having a good team. He said so far that's probably his biggest insight. That's cool. And these are the dates of the next two events for 2019, so I would suggest you write these down. So February 15th, 16th, and 17th, they're in London Heathrow, so one, you don't have to go to Central London, so you can drive there from here quite easily, or you just jump on a train. And if you can't make February, there's one in July. If you can't make either of those, they tend to be every quarter. But I would encourage you, as soon as you can, get on it. The sooner you start, the sooner you start making progress. Okay, we got that. So all the key areas. Typical price $3,991. I'm sure if you've been on an event like this, you know there's always an incentive to help you make a decision. Because it's about making decisions is what's going to get you to where you want to be. So there is an incentive. So if you decide to do this today, and it's not $3,991, you save yourself £1,000. It's $2,999. Okay, let's get back to our strategies, our single selection system. So next on here, HMOs, houses of multiple occupants. So a family let is where you've got one family in the property, you've got one contract. A house of multiple occupancy, a HMO, is where you have separate contract for each room. Typically 5 rooms, and then there'll be a shared kitchen, kind of lounge space, and shared bathroom facility. HMO is very much a job strategy, a lot of maintenance. So who do well, tenant type, who does this work with? They are a lot, but types of people. Professionals, young professionals, yes.
Quite a few in each
Who else? Students.
Social care.
Yeah, social care, or people on benefits of some sort. If that's my mum, tell her I still haven't got a proper job. Yeah, always. Yeah, throughout life.
She was a teacher, though.
Yeah, no, mine wasn't.
Guaranteed everything.
Yeah, she probably heard it from her teacher. So first rule, don't mix up the tenant types. Why not? It will cause problems, but why? Different lifestyles. Students. I know when I was a student, alcohol played a big part of my student life. What time do you get out of bed? When you feel like it. What time do you roll in? When you've finished your evening. Do you immediately go to bed? Are you likely to be noisy? Yes. Young professionals, when do they want to get up? Early. So do they want their sleep disturbed through the night by clattering students? No. So it will cause friction if you mix them up, and of course if you get friction, what happens? Voids. People will move out. That's a challenge. So they're high maintenance, because obviously not necessarily tidy, things get broken quite easy, so it is very much a job in that respect. And then on top of that, over last year especially, the laws changed, and what used to be 10 years ago where if you were under 3 floors or under 5 rooms, you didn't necessarily need a license, that's all changed. Now it's licensed for everybody. So So there's a couple more challenges with that, of course. Each council determines how many licenses they'll give. So you will have had situations where people have gone and actually gone and looked at a property with a view to it being a HMO, either existing or turning it into a HMO, and then gone down all that path, wasted all that energy, and then gone, actually, well, you check with the council that actually licensed it. Oh no. Then they go to LAC to find out and they can't get a license. That's not useful.
You need this license for service accommodation as well?
No, it falls under different rules at the moment, but that might change. Because I think, you know, then you're like a hotel is really a service accommodation. So an independent hotel is really a HMO. So there may be new rules, but it always comes down to health and safety. So, you need to watch it.
There also are some strange buy to let where in certain areas, if you've got more than 2 people in there, you have to have it as an HMO.
You have to have, two different contracts, yes.
It's kind of the rules called, there's a rule for it, but there's a...
I mean, it has changed a lot in the last year. So, HMO, more of a job strategy, pay attention, you will need a license. Don't mix your tenants up, that's one of the big things. Profit-wise, like, if there's a lot of work involved, could you outsource that work? Yes. So you can outsource it to some sort of letting agent. Now, here's the thing. First of all, finding a letting agent who will take on an HMO, not easy. Very few of them will. Why? Because it's a lot of work. And so if you are outsourcing to a letting agent, the letting agent obviously is going to charge a fee. So as a guide, for this kind of thing, letting agent probably charge somewhere between 14 and 17%. A decent letting agent for a HMO, that's common. If you have someone, a letting agent, say, no, I can manage it for you for somewhere between 8 and 10%, no, they can't. The numbers don't stack up. They can't make a profit.
And you've got that on top of that, don't you?
Yeah. That makes sense. So if you've got, let's say, well, if you found one that said, I can do it, and they're only going to charge you 8 to 10% like you would for standard property, they're not going to do it properly. What's going to happen is, and this is, you see this happen as a pattern quite commonly, they'll let the first room. So from your breakdown, usually if you break it down room by room, the first room tends to cover your mortgage. So let's say it's £100 a room per week, so let's say roughly 500 a month or something like that, or 2,000 a month, let's make it more accurate. But so you've got money coming in, they can be great cash flow generators done correctly. So like the first room may cover your mortgage, second room may cover some utilities, because obviously with HMOs they don't pay the bills, it's all included in the price. Third and fourth starts covering insurance, maintenance and so on. So usually, and then you're starting to get similar returns to a family let, and then the fifth room is usually where your profit is, but you've got to pay the tenant, you've got to pay the letting fee as well out of that, so that's usually included in here. But if you've got a letting agent charging 8 to 10%, because of the amount of work involved, you'll see them let 1, 2, 3 and 4, and then when it comes to the fifth bedroom, usually by that time, another deal's come across their desk, which is going to give them a lot more money, a lot easier. So what do? They take that and they neglect yours. That's common with cheap letting agents, because they're not making the money. It's not a win-win for them. And then of course it becomes a problem for you. So bear that in mind. Does that make sense, by the way? So that's HMOs. Getting into a HMO probably costs you about 60k.